still loading. Kind of like our No, it's still loading. Yeah, we have a lot of people.
If you still continue to knock the full space out of the thing, I hate to say that honestly, pretty ambivalent about the card itself.
Yeah, I mean, I can always get a new card. I mean, it's not a big deal.
Yeah. This is a real pain in the ass when you're like, apparently it says this is happening to me, like shoot thousands of pictures and they're all just corrupted immediately.
Yeah, so it seems like our group encountered a lot of the same problems other groups did. When we first were sitting down to figure out how we were going to come up with a presentation, a final product, the first question is sort of how do we do this? And we started talking and discussing potential ideas, and ultimately it seemed like we were being asked to split into disciplines. So that was the next thing we did. We split into our disciplines and started tackling this as individual groups, and what we came to was you can't be a singular discipline and discuss a problem that engages scientific theory and practice and social development and social ideals. It just doesn't work. So we're going to go through and share our individual experiences going through this and come to that conclusion.
So yeah, what I basically did is I actually recently moved to Red Hook for this past year, and I live in the same sort of neighborhood that all of this action is going on, actually right down the road from Brent. And in order to sort of get an idea of what people actually thought about this, because I actually didn't know about it either until I moved to Red Hook. So in order to sort of figure out what other people thought, I actually went and talked to a few people that were a mix of Bard students and also local residents. And honestly, like a good few of them didn't know about the whole idea of introducing a sewer. Those were mostly Bard students. And what I found was that a lot of them actually weren't too concerned about the drinking water. Since, I mean, honestly, when you pour a glass of water, it doesn't really look like there's anything wrong with it, and nobody was getting sick, so I guess people just didn't really think about the hidden contaminants that might be in there. So after speaking to people, I decided to make a pretty, like, sort of a comprehensive image of what I sort of pictured this issue to look like. And, you know, starting with the toilet, going to the septic tank, which then leads to the leach field, and then up to the drinking water, and then people consume it. So I thought just a image would get the picture.
So what I did is I wanted to kind of go in deep with like one person from the local community about the whole issue. So I talked to Joe Moscato from the Engineering Cafe. And in terms of asking him questions, I really wanted to like get his perspective, but also like kind of figure out what he thought these systems even looked like. So yeah, this sewer is what he pictures his septic system to look like. He said he thought it looked like a giant concrete poop strainer, and that it was 10 feet by 20 feet, and that there would be kind of like brick-sized openings in it that the waste would actually come out of. And I don't think that septic is supposed to have holes in it, but I don't know. And then he said that there was like a lid that would be open sometimes, and that waste would be taken out of it. And then when he described like what the sewer would look like if that were to be put in place, his thought was that the septic system would be rendered totally irrelevant. So yeah, that would mean that kind of like a new pipe would have to be installed, and that pipe would connect to like the main sewer line underneath the main street. And he said that this was like a problem because I think a lot of people think this, that like if someone had recently like spent 10 grand on a brand new septic system, and then like the sewer were put into place, that's like 10 grand down the toilet. But that's how like, people would view that. And then also there seems to be a lot of hearsay about like which option would be more money or cost more. And he said that the sewer system would create like more property taxes, while the septic systems kind of like require these yearly service fees, and so kind of confusion about like if one would be more economically effective versus the other. And then finally, a point he made was that having the main sewer is like what progressive people do, and that's like what modern towns do, and that's what he wants to do. And that the people who are kind of against that are these rugged individuals who are against change and are against the idea of progress, and like the kind of what Josh was talking about, like the town being taken over by development. So yeah, this was Joe's perspective on the entire issue.
Yeah, so representing the science portion, Sammy and I went out and we were trying to interview people using scientific rhetoric, and trying to understand from this scientific perspective, and we were also trying to figure out what that meant. So one of the most unique and interesting individuals that we interviewed came from the science field. It was Brooke Jude, who's a microbiology professor. So what was really interesting about Brooke's case is she lives in a house that's on campus, so she's currently on the BARD sewage and water lines, but she's looking to buy a house in Red Hook. So we got some really valuable information from her regarding the houses and the taxes in Red Hook. So she was, and I don't know a ton about mortgages and property taxes, but the long and short of it was if you have $300,000 in hand, you're looking at a house in the $150,000 range to buy in Red Hook because of mortgage, property taxes, and someone might know more about what I'm saying. But that was my main takeaway. And so with a disparity like that, one can easily see how adding costs onto that for maintenance and for an added tax for a sewage line would be prohibitive. And so one of the main issues with this is it's keeping people from buying in and coming into Red Hook unless they are wealthy enough to afford that, and that has its own implications that I won't go into. So, but it does set a lower end. And it's also, she brought up the point that there's the potential to force people out, people who may have been in family homes, who aren't paying house fee, whatever it is. And now with added costs, they're going to be forced out of family homes. So these sort of anthropological questions, I wanted to follow up with anthropological questions. And being in this science box, I felt bounded to not follow up on those. And that was sort of the difficulty in that regard.
So when we were talking to students, we found that generally when they were confronted with scientific facts, they would support the development and implementation of a central sewage system. We showed them things like groundwater and in which way it travels and how it goes directly into the soft hill. And we also talked about persistent chemicals in the environment and contaminants and possible pharmaceuticals that could get into waste systems as well. And it's pretty hard to be confronted with pure scientific fact like that and not support it. So after talking to students and professors, we concluded that with just scientific fact, we're not getting the entire part of the issue, which is what this whole project is about, I suppose, in the end. Because after we talked about the scientific fact, the students would say, well, what's the economic side and what's the political side, and what are the different sides to, like, how does development help the city versus helps the individual person. So it's really hard to stay within our discipline while we're talking to students. That's the overall takeaway of this, and you can't just talk about one discipline without talking about all the rest of them as well.
So yeah, I guess continuing on the theme that we've been discussing from the anthropology side, we also sort of just our approach to this question of how do we talk about water was to just continue to ask questions. So we said, who can we talk to get more information? So one important methodology central to anthropological work, but also as we see to also art and biological work, is to interview. And so, for example, I talked to a friend of mine who is both a Bard student and a bio major, and also a president about the issues in water in Red Hook. Not really, with more, I guess my approach was more to see not exactly what she knew about the topic, but more how she knew what she knew, and then we also sort of talked about to what extent she believed her opinions were valid, sort of based on who she was and why she was in Red Hook.
Sustainability coordinator on Bard's campus, and she advocated wholeheartedly for the project, but also made an important point that because Bard's water was sourced from the Sawkill watershed, that we're less mobilized to take action on the part of Red Hook, even though we have some students who live in Red Hook and who are residents there, and that we contribute a lot of economic and we do have a big relationship with Red Hook. We are disconnected in a way. And that she said that if Bard's water was under immediate threat, looking to the short term, that there would be more talk and more action, and that it's hard to look at the long term, but sometimes very necessary when you're talking about environmental issues. And then we came together, and this is a project from the Bard Eco-Reps that Eli worked on. And when we thought about how our three disciplines would come together, we thought about this water bottle, which is, it's actually advocating against the use of against buying water bottles because of all the pollution it produces for the world. But we thought about it in terms of the situation in Red Hook, and an example that I thought of would be to fill up water bottles with Red Hook tap water and create our own nutritional fact labels to go on the outside that have surprising facts like chances that your water has caffeine, X%, and have like biological data points like this, like chances of heavy metal, et cetera, et cetera. And this is like an example of how you're taking a visual aid along with biological data and putting it in the hands, actually in the hands of people. And it would be a point of conversation. Like they would drink it or not, or get angry or not, but it would be a place to start a dialogue, and it would center around the bottle.
Yeah, so that's sort of where we got to, is that there's no single track way to discuss or approach an issue like this. That it would be a waste of people's time to try to reduce it down to one field. It really takes the intermingling of different parties from different backgrounds to draw fruitful conclusions.
Most importantly, we found that sort of when we approached the topic, we originally, each one of us said, like, I don't know if I want to define myself as this or that. So we sort of all found ourselves asking the same questions and thinking about the same sort of issues, and then realizing that there wasn't any one approach that we wanted to take as students.
And then even when we were trying to keep it within our discipline in the beginning, it quickly broke down, and we were talking about issues found in the other disciplines.